still under oath?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Did I swear him in? That's okay. You're blank with that far one. I swore him in, right?
You did, Your Honor. We actually did some testimony.
Some testimony.
So, and Mr. Anderson, I believe where we left off is you were telling the jury where you currently live.
Yeah, I live in Sheffield, in England.
And how long have you lived in England?
19 years.
Now, prior to that, did you grow up in Jamaica?
Yes, sir.
And were both of your children born in Jamaica?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Anderson, obviously you being in England, would you visit your daughter, Andreen?
Yes, sir.
Roughly, how often would you come to visit?
Most time, once a year.
Would you stay in communication with your daughter?
Yes, sir.
How so? How would you do so?
When I'm in England, by telephone.
How often would you speak with Andre?
Very regular. Maybe like 3 times a week, but generally Friday. We speak on Friday mostly.
So Friday was kind of your scheduled time.
Yes,
to speak
sir.
to her. But you'd also speak to her on other occasions.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Anderson, may I call you Paul?
It's okay, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Paul, were you aware that Andre and your daughter were having marital issues?
Yes, sir.
Now, would you try to counsel both of them when you had these phone calls?
Yes, sir.
Would you would speak to Andre?
Yes, sir.
Would you also sometimes speak to Andre?
Yes, sir.
What was your advice to your daughter?
That they should seek counseling.
Did you try to encourage them to stay together?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
You need discussions. I'm sorry. And Your Honor, before we go further, and I apologize, I should have clarified at the bench, and I didn't tell the defense as we were walking back. I do not intend getting anything specific, any specific instances. This general in which Mr. Anderson spoke to the defendant in regards as to why he had assaulted his daughter in the past, and he then the defendant tells him the reason why. But I'm not going into specific instances of
you're saying
particular assaults.
You're saying because if defense brought into question, there's which the other two witnesses, I do remember them saying she could be aggressive, she could be, some of the witnesses, would mess with her. Which witnesses were you saying that they brought that into question about who was more, may have been the aggressor?
Yes, Your Honor. We believe that under Cindy and Johnson, the first witness, and also Maureen Smith, the mother-in-law to the defendant and the mother to the victim. Part of our rationale is under 30 and 36. It should come in because the defense brought that into question. But again, Your Honor, I'm not going into specific instances, just talking about what he said in general as to why the assaults.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do some questions and then I'll hear your arguments.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Anderson, you said that you spoke with your son-in-law, Andre, on the phone on occasions.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Anderson, did you ever speak to Andre McDonald as to the reason why he had assaulted your daughter?
Yes, sir.
And did he give you a reason as to why he did so?
Yes, sir.
What reason did he give you?
He said he was angry.
That he was angry?
Yes, sir.
And, Your Honor, that is what the state intends to elicit from the jury, and I've asked for a cross.
Well, Your Honor, that is a specific incident of conduct, and it would be, if it's admissible at all, it would be brought in under 404B. The witness can elicit a general opinion and reputation testimony without triggering any of those procedures. But what is being asked here is essentially the 405 equivalent of the loaded question, when did you stop beating your wife type question.
You did bring into all those other witnesses a lot of to call who was the more aggressive one, and if you look at 38, 36 in the murder case, all relevant facts regarding the killing and the previous relationship existing between both of them, together with all the relevant facts and circumstances showing the condition of the mind of the accused. What's your response on that?
Well, okay.
At the time of the offense.
The problem is, it's not clear to me from the testimony elicited what event we're talking about, when it occurred, how he has a basis of knowledge of it, anything about whether it actually happened or not.
Let me ask the state, you all know more specifics you're just not getting into? Erring on the side of not getting that in, or you're just...
Your Honor, I know that there was one particular conversation as to an incident that happened, but we're also talking about globally as to other incidents that happened. I'm not just pinpointing those specific instances. Also, just for the record, Your Honor, as well, we have certain notice of these allegations to defense counsel or the...
I don't know which one we're talking about now. I understand that they've notified us of specific instances of conduct that they might try to get through 404B.
I think they're trying to leave it just broad. You want them to get into specifics further? I mean,
well, if they want to leave it broad, then the way they do that is through Rule 405, and they would ask him, if knowing Andre and having experience with Andre, he's formed an opinion about whatever pertinent character trait they want to ask. He'll say, yes, I have an opinion. They'll ask him what it is, and then we're entitled to cross-examine under 405 about specific instances where had you heard and did you know questions regarding the underlying basis of that testimony. 404B is not implicated in any of that, and through that process, that's fine. But they can't say, we're not going to go into specific instances, it's a reputation and opinion question, and then through the way that they word the question, conceal that they are in fact talking about a specific conversation with Mr. McDonald and a conversation which ostensibly is about a specific incident that triggered the conversation. Because now they've tried to have their cake and eat it too. They don't want to go into the specifics of it, which deprives us of the ability to have a meaningful hearing under 404B with you now. And it forces us to have to make a decision, assuming that testimony gets admitted, of how vehemently we want to cross-examine about the particulars of it now in front of the jury. So we've undermined the point of both 404B and 405 in terms of why order of dialogue in the testimony has to be a certain way to protect Mr. McDonald's rights here. So, I mean, however they want to do it is their decision. I'm not going to grade their paper tactically. But they have, if they're going to go into a general reputation opinion question, then they can't ask it with that kind of detail, like, when you spoke to Andre, what did he tell you about why he beats your daughter? That is just concealing a 404B specific instance of conduct through the lens of 405. So they want to ask him what his general opinion is, that's fine.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor, we're actually offering under 3836.
That's what I'm reading.
But 3836 does not qualify how it's admitted. 3836 just says that that zone of information which would otherwise be irrelevant or that might have other protections.
Okay, I'm going to allow. Okay.
For just the benefit of the record, Your Honor, so that I don't have to make that objection in front of the jury, understand that that entire line of questioning I'm objecting to. Can I have a running objection as to that line of questioning?
Okay, I'll grant it.
Thank you, Judge.
Well, just to that objection.
Your Honor, just to make sure I understand, you're granting the running objection.
Yes,
Oh.
I'm allowing the testimony, but
Okay,
just
thank you,
so
Judge.
you continue the objection on that in front of the jury.
And I guess also, Your Honor, I'm sorry, one other thing. If the court's going to allow that line of questioning, if Your Honor could admonish the jury before the questioning begins that they're about to hear questions related to specific acts of conduct.
I'll give them the instruction of the jury charge. I'll make sure I include that.
Okay, but you won't admonish them now.
What do you want me to give them? What admonishment?
I would ask that they be admonished that the specific instance of conduct does not relieve the state of its burden of proof to prove the offense charged in the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt. That it can only be considered for very limited purposes. In particular, in this case, that it would be just considered as opinion or reputation evidence for no other purpose.
I'm going to go ahead and give it. Go ahead.
Your Honor, I think in the jury charge of those when it's appropriate, I think to make comment of it here would be inappropriate.
Yeah, I'm going to give that because it'll be to the word correct. You know, I don't want to give off a little what you're saying and objecting to that. So I'll make sure I get that in the jury instructions.
All right, jury, please. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Anderson, I believe where we left off is you stated that you would speak to your daughter on the phone about her relationship with her husband.
Yes, sir.
Would you also speak to Andre McDonald about that relationship?
Yes, sir.
Did you speak to Andre about why any physical violence that done by him happened in the relationship?
Yes, sir.
Did he explain to you why he did these physically violent things to Andre?
Yes, sir.
What did he say?
He said he was angry.
Now, Mr. Anderson, I want to call to your attention February 28, 2019. This is the day before your daughter goes missing. Did you speak to Andre that day?
Yes, sir.
How did you speak to her?
Over the phone.
Now, was there anything different about Andreen's demeanor or how she was acting when you spoke to her that day?
Yes, sir.
What was different?
She was crying.
Now, Mr. Anderson, you're Andreen's father. Had you seen Andreen cry before?
Yes, sir.
On how many occasions?
Once.
When was that?
At my son's funeral.
When you spoke to Andreen on the phone on February 28th, he said that she was crying. Do you remember what time of day you spoke to her?
In England, it will be about 12 o'clock in England.
Is it 12 o'clock noon or midnight?
12 o'clock in the day.
After that conversation with Andreen, did you ever speak to her again?
No, sir.
Mr. Anderson, did your daughter have any tattoos on her shoulders?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Paul, I'm going to show you what I've marked as State's Exhibit 436 and State's Exhibit 437. Do you recognize those photos?
Yes, sir.
Who is depicted?
I'm going to backtrack on defense. I'm going to go ahead and give an instruction. Reading some of this stuff here too. I was going to give an instruction of the jury charge, but I'm also going to do it now. You're instructed that if there is any testimony before you in this case regarding basically what you just heard from the witness, the defendant having committed an act or an act of misconduct other than the offense alleged in the indictment. In this case, you cannot consider said testimony for any purpose unless you find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed such acts or acts of misconduct if any were committed. And even then, you may only consider the same in determining motive, opportunity, intent, preparation, plan, knowledge, or consciousness of guilt, if any, of the defendant in this case, or to assist you if it does, in determining the context of the offense committed in this case, if any was committed, and or to rebut a defensive theory if it does, and for no other purposes. I was going to give you that instruction in the jury charge, but I wanted to give it to you now also because he just testified to that.
May I continue, Your Honor? Thank you. Paul, I believe where we left off is I showed you State's Exhibits 436 and 437. Do you recognize the people in those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And in regards to State's 436, which individuals are shown?
Andreen, my daughter, and Helena, my granddaughter.
And Elena, is that Andreen's daughter?
Yes, sir.
And it states 437, who's depicted there?
Andreen, my daughter.
And Paul, you stated that your daughter had a tattoo. Is one of those tattoos shown in these photographs?
Yes, sir.
And what part of her body is shown?
It's on her left shoulder.
What is the tattoo of?
It's in the form of a cross,
And does it have some script underneath the cross?
and below it have Jesus.
Do these photographs in States 436 and 437, do they appear like they've been altered or changed in any way?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Do they fairly and accurately depict what your daughter and your granddaughter look like?
Yes, sir.
John, at this time we move into evidence 436 and 437, subject to objection.
No objections.
Is that it? Motion.
And Paul, this is State's Exhibit 436. This is a picture of your daughter and granddaughter.
Yes, sir.
And then on your daughter's left shoulder, is that the tattoo that you spoke of?
Yes, sir.
Now I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 437. Paul is at another angle of that same tattoo where you can see the script saying Jesus.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach the bench?
Yes.
Paul, I'm now going to show you what's already been admitted into evidence of State's Exhibit 432. Paul, does this appear to be the same tattoo with script that you identified in the previous two images?
Yes, sir.
Permission to publish. I'll pass the witness.
Your defense counsel.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
My name is John Hunter. I represent Andre McDonald. I just have a few questions for you. You had testified about a tattoo that Andreen had on her arm that had a cross on it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's this tattoo here,
Yes, sir.
correct? And you indicated it says Jesus below it, right?
Yes, sir.
It says Jesus walks in its entirety across, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. I know that it said Jesus below it.
Okay, but you don't know if it said anything else, like Jesus walks or anything like that?
No, sir. I never said that on it. Walk.
Did she ever indicate to you it was inspired by a Kanye West song?
No, sir. She didn't tell me.
Okay, one way or the other.
She never tell me why she wear it. My son also have that tattoo.
Okay. She had other tattoos, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did she tell you about all of them?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Your Honor, the door's been open to this. The tattoos in question are part and parcel of, I believe,
The approach.
want to back up for a moment. Mr. Anderson, you had indicated that you had a conversation with Andre McDonald about his relationship with Andreen and their marital difficulties, correct?
Yes, sir.
That would have taken place back sometime in 2018, correct?
Yes, sir.
Specifically in the summer of 2018, right?
Could you repeat that, sir?
It would have been in the summer of 2018, right?
When the argument, the conversation we have was in July.
In July of
And,
2018?
yes, sir.
Okay. And you know that Andre and Andreen had been down to Brownsville to visit Andre's friend Sergio and his wife Holly, correct?
I'm not sure who they visited or where they went.
But they were on a trip.
I know that they went on a trip.
They had driven somewhere.
Yes, sir.
And you know that while they were on that trip, Andre noticed that Andreen had 2 new tattoos, correct?
I don't know if it's 2 new tattoo, but I know that there was a new tattoo. I don't know if it's 2 or it's 1. But
Okay. And you know that tattoo included the birthday of another man, correct?
not to my knowledge. I don't know what the reason of the tattoo was.
Okay. Did you ever see those tattoos?
No, sir.
You never saw them?
No, sir.
Okay. Fair enough. When asked about that, we're discussing sort of your understanding of Andre's. You're talking about a specific instance when Andre and Andreen had a fight, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's what you were asking Andre about, was that fight in July of 2018, correct?
Yes, sir.
After that fight, you still encouraged Andre and Andreen to reconcile and to work it out, correct?
No, I asked him to seek counseling after that date.
Okay. You're a very tall man, fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And Andreen was a very tall woman.
Yes, sir.
And a very strong woman.
Yes, sir.
She was religious about her fitness and her workout routines.
Yes, sir.
Y'all would talk about those things together.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever seen Andreen carry Andre around on her shoulders before?
Could you repeat that?
Have you ever seen Andreen carry Andre around on her shoulders before?
I saw something on the internet where she was showing me that she was working out at the gym.
Okay. She could lift a lot of weight.
Yes, sir.
And you know your daughter. You know that your daughter would also sometimes have a temper on her, right?
Have a what, sir?
Have a temper.
Not to my knowledge, sir.
You never saw her lose her temper?
No, sir.
Do you know about a man in Jamaica named Ahmed?
Yes, sir. I know that name.
Did your daughter ever talk about it?
No, sir.
Okay. But you knew that your daughter had been romantically involved with him before, right?
No, sir.
You live in England now, and you've been there 19 years, but you said you grew up in Jamaica, right?
Yes, sir.
How long did you live in Jamaica?
I live in Jamaica from I was born until I lived to England in 2004.
Okay. Did you grow up in the Portland parish?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is Port Antonio the largest town in Portland parish? Or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's sort of the north side of the island?
Eastern side, sir.
Eastern side. Okay. And in that part of Jamaica, there's a lot of crime that happens in that part of Jamaica, right?
I believe it have one of the less crime rate in Jamaica.
Okay, but compared to your time in England, you'd acknowledge Jamaica's had some rough difficulties with its crime rate, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of crime in Jamaica.
A lot of narcotics trafficking in Jamaica.
Sir,
That's irrelevant.
Same.
There are a lot of murders in Jamaica, right?
Again, you're
Same.
not affecting irrelevance.
Did you know Andre McDonald before he and Andreen got together?
No, sir.
But over the time that they were married, you all had a relationship, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it was often a positive relationship.
Yes, sir.
I'll pass the way. Sorry.
I apologize. I'm over here. I apologize.
You mentioned that you had heard the name Ahmed before, correct?
Your Honor, I've been up and checked. He's already answered that he knew the name and nothing beyond that.
You say you didn't know anything about the tattoos, but I don't think if the court would note my exception. I'll pass the witness.
No further questions. Thank you, excuse me.
Thank you, sir.